Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, myself. But as you know, Mike Washington is on assignment. AD Drew that oftentimes substitutes for him is also on assignment. But I have none other than the great Professor Bishop. So we're going to bring you a show today. So let me say welcome to episode 835 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to K-Sway's 12:30 a.m. studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, that is, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let's bring in Charles Bishop so we can get into some HBCU news of the day. Before we do that, let me say today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational consulting, and data analytics. With that said, let me also give a shout out to the PVIL Coaches Association Hall of Fame. That is a Hall of Fame for the then segregated, what we would call black high schools. They did cover some middle schools as well, but mainly the black high schools from 1920 to about 1970 in the state of Texas. They are having their Hall of Fame banquet this Saturday, and I will be the MC, Masters of Ceremony, for that event. Nice. I'm working on an introduction that I'll do for that event, I should say, and I'm excited for that opportunity. But I wanted to say congratulations to a lot of those Hall of Famers, and many of those Hall of Famers moved their careers, as you would imagine, when they moved from high school to HBCUs and beyond. So there is that connection as well. And I believe in my speech, I will stomp the ground a little bit for some HBCUs as I do that. But with that being said, shout out to the lab listeners as they're in the house. We have a full episode. We'll get into some HBCU news. Then we'll get into the release of the SWACs preseason players list. We'll do that in segment 2, if you would. Segment 3, we have the inaugural preseason release of the Black College Football Poll. I get to direct that. So certainly want to showcase that as it was released today. We'll do the Division 2, what we call the mid-major list. We'll do that in the 3rd segment. In the 4th segment, we'll get into FCS Division 1, what we refer to kindly as the major division. So excited about that being released. I want to get Charles' thoughts on all of this. But before we get into that, it's time to get some HBCU news of the day out. Charles, what direction are you going with the news of the day from your perspective?
Yeah, well, let's start out. Let's go over to Grambling, Louisiana, as they had a good major announcement today as Grambling State receives a multi-million-dollar funding for their indoor sports facility. And this comes to us from HBCU Sports. Grambling received more than $20 million from the state of Louisiana for the fiscal year 2027 budget. And some of that money will go towards the Tiger Athletics program. Some $6 million was earmarked for a brand new indoor facility on campus, adding to the $6.7 million previously given to the university. The funding will continue construction of a training facility that Grambling athletes will be able to use year-round. And this is a statement from President Martin LaMelle Jr. The additional investment from the state of Louisiana represents meaningful support for our students and the future of Grambling State University. Most importantly, it creates greater opportunities for our students to learn, lead, compete, and succeed. So kudos to Grambling, and the race is on. Indoor facility up and going.
Yeah, that's a big deal when you start talking about indoor facilities. Not many in the country. Certainly when you look at the FCS level, that's not the case. We have one in terms of currently HBCU Tennessee State, but it looks like we're adding to that. And then you have some additional facilities. Big deal. Shout out to Dr. Travion Scott. He was a top 6 AD VP of athletics at the Division I FCS level. We call it again major division level. And that's the indication why, in terms of what he's doing off the field, which in some cases are more importantly because it affects so much what's on the field. So expectations are going to start to be high in terms of those coaches being able to take the next step. We'll see what that means. With that being said, let me first do a little bit of support of the MEAC commissioner. We celebrate Sonia Steele's over there in the MEAC, telling her happy birthday. Obviously, we do a ceremony moment of silence, but sometimes it's happy to be able to celebrate someone's additional trip around the moon. We do it for each other, but now we get a chance to celebrate the conference commission of the MEAC for this 2026 years. Shout out and congratulations for another birthday celebration for Commissioner Steele. I wonder what she has planned this evening.
Yeah, that's a good point. She shares a birthday with another frequent guest of ours, and he stops in from time to time. But I want to send shout outs to Travis Jerome over at Jackson State. His birthday is today. So
shout out to Travis' birthday. What I wonder what he has planned today. Hopefully it's not some more releases and more writing. You take a little bit of a break, you know what I'm saying? Just
hopefully it's a good steak dinner somewhere. So
somewhere,
yeah.
You know, Jackson State. I've been to a place or two. They can do some steak. They can do some steaks. Now I like the catfish. There's something about the way they do catfish, but they can find a way to chow down on a mean cow as well and fix it up right for you if you get down. So, maybe gonna do some barbecue. We'll have to ask. Oh, Jerome, what he plans to do, what his favorite dish is, I guess is the question of the day. With that, let me yield back to you, Charles. What other direction do you want to go?
Yeah, let's continue to take a look at it as this comes to us from HBCU Game Day, article by Stephen Gaither. North Carolina A&T football, they set a season ticket record. We were talking about ticket sales the other day, but North Carolina A&T has already made history before the 2026 HBCU football season begins. The school says it has sold more than 6,000 season tickets, a new record for Aggie football. The announcement came with less than 2 months to go before the start of the season, so it also sends a clear message that the Aggies are not done selling. So kudos to A&T, get it done with regards to season ticket packages.
Yeah, it's big. You know, I know this is the second year of the coach, but they hadn't done as well, but the expectations must be high for a lot of people around that. And regardless, the fact that you can sell 6,000 tickets is something to be proud of. So certainly I agree with you. That's a big deal. Also wanted to shout out baseball, HBCU baseball coaches in terms of USA Today.
Nice.
They are over there in Taiwan, but we have HBCU's representation. When you look at the picture there to your far left, if you would, you recognize that face there, Charles. That's Davin, Coach Pierre from Grambling State. And then you have Norfolk State represented here out of the MEAC. That's player Thomas Ely. Norfolk State, obviously, they play baseball in the NEC as an affiliate member. Then we shift back to the SWAC. You've seen this too often right in front of your face down there, McGregor Park, and that is Trey Calloway right there in the middle, if you would, Alabama State. And then you have Pablo Torres, Bethune-Cookman, representing, and along with Bethune-Cookman is the head coach there on the far right, Johnny Hernandez. Bethune-Cookman there. It's in the morning over there on that side, Charles, while we're getting ready to the evening. So Coach may be up checking us out as he gets ready for his day to play some baseball. Let's play 9. They're going to play it on the other side over there in the east, if you would, far east, as they're getting it done. Wishing all those players well in terms of representing the USA team there, collegiate team. Big deal. And great job. We've always tried to tell a lot of folks, a lot of talent in the SWAC, and you see some representation here by the coaches and players. And then the NEC, as we talk about, the MEAC says, don't count us out as well as they're getting it done. Fascinating, so wanted to give a little bit of shout out there. Shifting back to you, Charles, any additional news you have up there or any thoughts that you want to talk about Conference USA baseball?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at one more piece of news here that came out today. Georgia Football cancels a money game against an HBCU opponent. This comes to us from HBCU Sports. A major money game payout will not be coming for HBCU football team. Georgia announced it has canceled their scheduled 2028 matchup with Florida A&M, according to the Athens Banner Herald. The game was originally set for September 9th, 2028 at Sanford Stadium, has been on the books since 2020, and was expected to be a major non-conference payday for Florida A&M, but that game is now canceled for the foreseeable future.
Interesting, because they didn't go into much of the reason for the cancellation, so everybody's trying to figure out what that is, but it is updating the news, and some money that FAMU is expecting to get, now they have to shift and find another way to try to close that gap, if you would. So fascinating from that perspective, because one of the things the article did allude to, that it was a mutual agreement. So I'm not sure if there's any payout. Usually cancellation is due to a payout, but you couldn't quite tell if that was the case, especially when you think about the mutual cancellation agreement. So fascinating to see what that looks like. I did also want to get in before we close out this first segment is the NCAA opening round. Remember earlier that there was an announcement that you would see the field of the March Madness expand with additional what they call opening round games for the men's and women's. So for the men's side, the Dayton will continue to host the game. Actually, they'll have additional day, as we know, because they have more teams in there. But you get Wichita. Wichita has entered into the marketplace in regards to hosting these opening round games. So, Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of Wichita being added? Dayton has been able to work out really well. I've gotten a chance to travel to a couple of games. I got to see Texas Southern playing those games. I've seen them twice. One of them I really was fascinating with the opportunity to see when you talk about it, because it matched up North Carolina Central and Texas Southern. At that time, the two premier programs, you could argue, some would want to say Norfolk State, they were on their way, but this was kind of before they really pushed through without a question. Now you would have to say they were there in terms of what's going on. And Texas Southern has slid just a little bit. At that time, it was Mike Davis, obviously the quintessential coach over there at North Carolina Central that continues to get it done. They matched up. And I was fascinated because it was like the 50th anniversary of the 50s matchups in the NIA days when you had the tournament that was picking out the best HBCU program for about 3 years that finally got a bid to the NAIA tournament. And you know the rest of the history there. But what are your thoughts in terms of Wichita getting the market? Because Dayton has really been able to do well, having significant crowds from local fan base beyond fans traveling there to see their team.
Well, I'm sure that probably went into the rationale or the decision making for in terms of picking Wichita. I've had an opportunity to travel there once, and I was struck by the fervor for Wichita State baseball in particular, and Wichita State basketball. So it does have a very fervent fan base, especially with regards to collegiate sports. So that was one thing that kind of jumped out for me. And, you know, if it mimics anything with what Dayton does in terms of that that opening round game that they picked a winner with regards to that city.
Yeah, that's a good point when you talk about that good information as we continue to move in there. Let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll get into a little bit of football talk as folks start to lather up. SWAC is the first one to kick things off next Tuesday. And with that being said, as they actually do it on Wednesday, Charles will be in town Tuesday, it looks like. I'll get in there Monday, so I'm fascinated to see what things look at. You also have the kickoff classic for the Birmingham Classic. You would featuring Southern and Alabama State, so they'll have that presser on Tuesday. I will be there for that, 11 o'clock sharp that morning. But that being said, I'm fascinated to see what are the thoughts from the lab listeners in regards to those individuals that made the SWAC preseason teams. We'll get Charles to jump in there on that as well. We'll be right back again after this first break.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a state, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
If you've ever told yourself, I want to get into real estate but don't know where to start, here's something just for you. From Friday, July 31st to Sunday, August 2nd, the Learn Real Estate Fast Masterclass is coming to McKenzie Office Park in College Park. You'll learn wholesaling, commercial investing, and how to purchase property with zero money or credit. I can tell you, education and access are everything. This masterclass is designed to give you both. Whether you're brand new or ready to level up, this is where you start making real moves. Enjoy free lunch, free study materials, and receive a certification of completion. So don't wait. Seats are filling fast. Do not sit on the sidelines while others build wealth. Take that first step toward ownership and legacy. Get your tickets now at learnrealestatefast.com or tickpick.com. For more information, call 678-859-3303. Master the market, build your legacy, secure your future today.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we get into breaking down SWAC preseason and get your thoughts on that, and I'll chime in as well. We also have Lindy's. Lindy's releases their 2026. So I'll look at some global look, particularly since we'll talk about the Division II, NCAA Division II, if you would. and the FCS, as I said, in the third and fourth segment. So we'll get the chance to break down the top 10. And after the media days, you'll see a release of the all HBCU, if you would, Black College preseason All-American team. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these folks on the Lindy's All-American team and some of these folks on preseason, how many of them folks will land themselves on that inaugural list. With that being said, on the first team, if you would, as we get into this media day, we'll get into that offensive player. 1 second before we jump on that, I want to give this Lindy's all FCS team. You have a Elijah Kennedy, all-purpose player, if you would, senior for North Carolina A&T. We just heard A&T selling a lot of season tickets. They do have an All-American on the first team in terms of offense. So fascinating when you think about that. Then you have, if you would, on the defensive first team, you have a linebacker, Jordan Franklin, out of South Carolina State. Also, you have a defensive back, Kedrick Green from Howard, on the first team defense for the Lindy's 2026 All FCS team. They have a second team, so let's check that out as well. In terms of the second team, you got a guy out of the SWAC, as those two guys were out of the, one of them was out of the MEAC, and then you have the CAA in terms of the Colonial Athletic Association, known as the Coastal Athletic Association now. You have Arkansas Pine Bluff running back Jalen Jennings, a senior, on the second team offense. Also, an offensive lineman, Elijah Baker, Alabama State's senior, if you would, getting it done. And lastly, on the defense second team is Arkansas Pine Bluff, a linebacker, Denarius Hilliard is on the list representing. And then you have a defensive back from Alabama State, Tashawn Sims, getting in the mix there when you talk about what that looks like. So shout out to Lindy's for giving us some updates in terms of what that looks like. I'll come back to Lindsay's and talk about their FCS top 25, Charles, when we release our top 10 in the last segment to see the placement of what that looks like. But when you start talking about preseason offensive player of the year, as you saw, we can bring it up now, and that shouldn't really surprise anybody. Andrew Body is the preseason offensive player of the year after earning first team all SWAC honors at quarterback. You also have a Jackson State defensive back, Cam Salas, who was named 2026 SWAC preseason defensive player of the year, also earning first team all SWAC. That kind of pushes away the rest. Talk a little bit about Body. Body earned SWAC preseason player of the year honors after leading one of the conference's most explosive offenses in 2025. In 8 games, he completed 113 of his 160 passes. That's 70.6% for 1,770 yards. Very efficient. Got in the end zone as well, 20 touchdowns, and just to 1 interception while adding 500 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 221.3 passing yards per game and posted 203.6 passing efficiency rating, helping lead Alabama State to a 10-2 overall record and a 7-1 conference mark, just getting clipped literally by Jackson State out of the SWAC championship game. And they would have hosted it if they would have won that game based on the fact that they defeated Prairie View. With that being said, let's put a pause here and kind of get your thoughts on offensive player of the year, Andrew Body.
Yeah, I think just taking a look at Andrew Body last year, he had made the jump in terms of being a complete quarterback. Prior to last year, we knew of him more as a threat with his legs versus with his arm. But you mentioned the stats: 20 touchdowns, only 1 interception, completing 70% of his passes. And I tell you that showdown last year versus Jackson State was one of the most exciting games of the season. Just both defenses, they were at the mercy of the quarterbacks in that game. And Andrew Body put on a tremendous show in that game. But just knowing that he is a dual threat, but the elephant in the room, of course, is can he stay healthy throughout the entire season? And I think that's the thing that you take a look at with Andrew Body, but deservedly preseason offensive player of the year in terms of what he was able to do during the time that he was a quarterback in last season for Alabama State.
One of the things that you wait on when you get to SWAC Media Day in Birmingham is the preseason rankings, and obviously they do it between the two divisions. Lindy's has theirs, and they have it in terms of Alabama State. Picked first in the week, and they put in a lot of work on Andrew Body. Jackson State is picked second, and FAMU picked third. Bethune-Cookman fourth, Alabama A&M fifth, and Mississippi Valley State is sixth. When you think about that, it's fascinating. Boy, you got to be in a good position, TC Taylor. You know, oftentimes he's been the hunted.
Yes.
He gets to play a different role in terms of motivating his team. Not that they need it, because their expectation, the fans there in DI Love, is to not just host the championship game, obviously win it, meaning they plan to be in Atlanta. So that's kind of fascinating. That happened there from that perspective. And then you have the defensive player of the year in terms of, as we said, Cam Salas. Give us your thoughts on Cam Salas in terms of representing for the defensive side of the ball. As we said, Jackson picked by Lindy second in terms of preseason predictions.
All-around athlete, especially when you take a look at a guy, and we're starting to see this more so in the game of football itself, just the importance of having that hybrid type of safeties, a person who can come down and make plays in the box, and then who can go from sideline to sideline, hash to hash in terms of covering ground. Cam Salas, he checks all the boxes in that regards. 53 tackles last year, 2 interceptions last year for Jackson State, but really stabilizing force, especially on the back end for Jackson State, because they're trying to get that secondary back up and going to what it was back in 2024, and to have his presence back there, that's going to be huge for Jackson State.
Good stuff when you talk about that. Fascinating. Already FAMU is talking about playing in no respect. They didn't get anybody on their first team all conference, but you have players like we said, Andrew Body, running back Jalen Jennings from Pine Bluff, running back Chase Bigman from Prairie View, offensive lineman Elijah Baker, Alabama State. The next 4 offensive linemen, as you see here, Calvin McMillan, Quavian Davis, Christian Loving, Cameron Rogers, Nate Rembrick, getting it done in terms of what he does at the receiving position. Avery Robinson and Jones, that was there last year, tight end. It's expecting to see him kind of step up some. It's fascinating with his second year in the program. I'm interested there. On the defensive side, first team, you have Malik Kukake out of Prairie View A&M University, Eric Thomas Jr., Alcorn State, Arenza Davis, Michael Joyner Jr., Denarius Hilliard, Wyatt Wright, Stephen Sparrow Jr., Deshaun Sims, Cam Salas that we talked about in terms of defensive player of the year, Eric Zachary of Prairie View, Herman Brister III of Southern. That's your first and second team specialists. It's place kicker David Falk, Alabama A&M, Demetrian Duvall, Alcorn State, Nehemiah Hickson, Alabama State, and Bethune-Cookman's Cole Hash rounded out in terms of the first teamers. What are your thoughts, Charles, in terms of what we're seeing from this first team offensive preseason? Names that you recognize, some people ended the season on the all SWAC team. And as you imagine, they're back at it in terms of what that looks like.
Yeah, impressive group. Let's start with Prairie View, Malik Gukaki. He's a disruptive presence on that defensive line last year for Prairie View. And you started to see, especially over the back half of the season, Prairie View's defense really kind of step up last year for the Panthers that led them to the SWAC championship game. and they have a shutdown corner, Eric Zachary, as well on the first team. So tremendous presence for Prairie View on the defensive side of the ball. Another, I was very impressed in terms of looking at Alcorn's defensive line last year. Eric Thomas, he gets the call in terms of being on the first team defense. Another disruptive presence. Michael Joyner Jr. for Alabama State. I'm very curious this upcoming season. Can Alabama State get back to that physicality that we've seen from them before, especially going back to 2024 season when it was just very, very hard to run and throw the ball on them. But they kind of, I think, you take a look at a couple of defenses that kind of had a little bit of a step back last year, Jackson State and Alabama State. Can they solve that with regards to this upcoming season? So another great presence, Darius Hilliard from Arkansas Pine Bluff. So there are a lot of guys, a lot of talent on this first team all swag preseason defense that you really are expecting some big things from.
I agree with you. Great point when you talk about all that talent and the way it's spread around. I mean, you can't just get your way on the team just because there's not a large portion of folks to select from. You got 12 teams, and you even see BC, Bethune-Cookman, Alabama A&M, and UAPB have representation on the first team list, the second team, and things of that nature. Fascinating when you think about that. Any thoughts in terms of just the depth across the conference? Obviously, some teams like Alabama State, Jackson State, Prairie View have a lot of people between the first and second team. What are your thoughts in terms of the depth, however, the preseason teams?
I think you kind of touched on it. I mean, and it begs the question, how much parity will there be in the conference this upcoming season? Good representation from various teams on the first and second team of preseason rankings here. But I'm really curious in terms of when you start taking a look at it. I think there are a lot of teams that sort of made a step forward last year, Bethune-Cookman being one. Grambling had some fourth quarter heartbreakers, but they got the upset of the year against Jackson State last year. So can they make that step forward? And then, I think people need to pay attention to Texas Southern. That's a good football team. They finally had their first winning season in a while last season. Can they make that step forward this upcoming season? So I think across the board, there's a lot of talent, but it always gets real interesting, Dr. Cavil, once we start getting towards mid-October. The wheat separates from the chaff a little bit by the end. So you kind of start getting a really good sort of, look-see in terms of who's who, especially are there teams that can separate themselves from the pack.
Good stuff, good stuff. We talked about Lindy's on the East Division. In terms of the West Division, Charles, Prairie View's ranked number 1, Grambling number 2, Southern all the way to 3. It's going to be interesting to see what Southern's pick. Some people have them relatively high. Some people have them relatively low. Maybe you split the difference. I don't know. Number 4, Alcorn State Braves. You ask Charles Evans, he'll tell you that that's way too low. Texas Southern at 5. Just spoke with you. I imagine you think that's too low. And you have Arkansas Pine Bluff at number 6. We'll wait until the last segment, and we'll give you some updates of what that looks like from Dave Campbell's. But I thought that was interesting and wanted to share a little bit from Lindy's national perspective of what they see in terms of the FCS programs, in terms of their rankings. So that's always interesting to me. They do have, if you would, a top 25 team. They have number 23 at South Carolina State. They also have Delaware State as 25, Charles.
Oh, really?
So give you some indication of some love they get for Delaware State. Do not have a sport team ranked 25. But when you talk about the MEAC, just to let you know what they think out before we close this out, usually I tell everybody else to go from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to do it this time in terms of the MEAC. At number 6, Norfolk State. No love for Michael Vick yet. Number 5, Morgan State Bears. They still have the Bears struggling. At number 4, Howard comes in with their first-year program. They have them at number 4. Number 3 is North Carolina Central. At number 2, Delaware State. And number 1, South Carolina State. People got some love for Delaware State. They think they're going to run it back. So kind of fascinating there. Just to give you an overhead, not the same confidence in A&T out of the CAA in terms of the fans at A&T. They have them ranked 12th, but they are better off and one up than Hampton, which is ranked number 13. In terms of Tennessee State, they do not believe that Tennessee State is going to turn it around this year. OVC Big South football, you know, they do the association partnership. They have Tennessee State 8, bottom of the barrel in terms of what they're doing there. With that being said, let's take our next break, come back on the other side, and we're going to get into the Black College Football inaugural preseason release for 2026. We're going to do it from the Division II programs, give you the top 10 programs there. We'll look at some receiving votes as well. We'll be right back after this next break to have Charles talk about it.
If you've ever told yourself, I want to get into real estate but don't know where to start, here's something just for you. From Friday, July 31st to Sunday, August 2nd, the Learn Real Estate Fast Masterclass is coming to McKenzie Office Park in College Park. You'll learn wholesaling, commercial investing, and how to purchase property with zero money or credit. I can tell you, education and access are everything. This masterclass is designed to give you both. Whether you're brand new or ready to level up, this is where you start making real moves. Enjoy free lunch, free study materials, and receive a certification of completion. So don't wait. Seats are filling fast. Do not sit on the sidelines while others build wealth. Take that first step toward ownership and legacy. Get your tickets now at learnrealestatefast.com or tickpick.com. For more information, call 678-859-3303. Master the market, build your legacy, secure your future today.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter. From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop. Let's jump right into it. This is the premier Black College Football poll. Again, we're going to go with the NCAA Division II level programs. That is a composite of the CIAA, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the SIAC, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, as well as those independent programs at that level. They were all eligible to receive votes in the rankings. You have voters with head coaches and media members that were selected. All the coaches in the leagues were available to vote on the poll ranking. And when you look at that, when you talk about the Division II, let's start with those receiving votes. You had two teams that got 10 receiving votes, if you would. That's Livingston. The Blue Bears were 5-5, 3-4 last season. They ended up with 10 points just outside of the top 10, if you would. West Virginia State Yellow Jackets, independent program outside of the CIAA SIEC, always finds a way to be around that top 10. Be interesting to see not only can they break into that top 10 and maybe find their way into that top 5 ranking this year. Pretty tough schedule when you talk about them playing in the Western Virginia Intercollegiate Athletic Conference over there, if you would. But they are receiving votes and got 10 votes just like Livingston Blue Bears. Let's get into the action. At number 10, you have Tuskegee. The Golden Tigers out of the SIEC come in at 10, 4-7, 3-7, 17 points. While a lot of folks had them at 10, Charles, somebody thinks they're going to be the surprise team of the year, and they gave them a first place vote. I wonder who that was.
Wow.
Number 9, exactly. Edward Water Tigers, also out of the SIEC, 5-5, 4-4 votes, 53 points. You have at number 8, Allen, the Yellow Jackets, also out of the SIEC, loaded here at 6-5 overall, 5-3, 60 points. Just edging them out is number 7, Virginia State, the Trojans. That's Dr. Henry Frazier III, coming in with the CIAA program at 6-4, 4-3, at 66 points. A lot more people are comfortable about 6-1, as you see a little spread, if you would, between number 7 and 6, which is the Fayetteville State Broncos, CIAA, if you would, 6-4, 6-1, 91 points. At number 5, Kentucky State, the SIAC, 93-71, 112 points. Didn't receive any first place vote, but the next 4 have several first place votes. Number 4 is Virginia Union. Panthers sit at 6 out of the CIAA, I should say, with 9-3 overall record last year, 7-0, bringing home the championship. That's Dr. Parker doing his thing. Probably one of the hottest coaches out there that remains at the Division II level that some of the SC programs may be looking at. 154 points, 7 first place votes. While you had more people see Albany State at the rank, only 4 of them thought of them as number 1 versus Virginia Union. They got more first place votes. So a bigger spread when you think of Virginia Union. Some people don't see them that high. A lot of people see them all the way at the top. But that said, Albany, that's Albany, as Mike would like to remind us. The Golden Rams out of the SIC were 12-2, 8-0, lost a lot of players, and the head coach, Quinn Gray, that is down there in Tallahassee, the highest of 7 hills. They like to stay in their place in those parts, FAMU. And guess what? Their first game to kick things off, Albany State travels to Tallahassee with FAMU. So that'll be interesting from that perspective. And number 2, they just inked out Albany State as Benedict in terms of total points, 157, 10 and 371. And they have 20 first place votes in terms of what the coaches thought there. You have Johnson C. Smith, if you would, CIAA. They're thought to repeat in terms of what they were able to do, win that championship first time in so many moons. They're at the top of this preseason. So people like what Coach Flowers is doing over there. 10-2, 6-1. Tough loss in the playoffs, but they have their chance. They opened up the season against Albany State. They ran it last year, so that'll be interesting in terms of the Black College Football Hall of Fame, which features last year's champion of the CIAA and SIC. So that'll be a top 5, top 3 matchup to be specific. But they come in with 168 points and 12 first place votes in terms of what they get there in terms of the march. Charles, what do you think in terms of this inaugural NCAA Division II HBCU ranking with the top 10 teams in preseason?
The linchpin for me is Albany State, sitting there at number 3. Justin losing Quinn Gray, quarterback as well. Will they be able to? I mean, it was a great program, obviously, but will they be able to continue to sustain what they were able to do last year? I mean, that was a tremendous season last year, 12-2, 8-0 in conference play. And, you know, they get the win over Benedict in the second round of the playoffs there. But that one's the one, that's the one that's kind of curious to me if they can continue to be in that upper echelon there in terms of the Division II teams. when is Tuskegee going to make their ascension back up the ladder? That's a question for me. Traditionally, always a great program, but they've fallen on hard times recently. We saw Upstart last year where the waters kind of cooled off a bit toward the end of the season, but they were chunking the ball around all over the place. Interesting early season contest, WC Gordon Classic, where they go to Jackson, take on Jackson State. So can they continue that potent offense that they were able to put up last year? Johnson C. Smith, I think Benedict, I think they're rightfully where they need to be, but the one that I'm kind of paying attention to is Kentucky State, to see if they can make the next step forward in terms of what they were able to do. By all accounts, they could have knocked off Grambling last season. It did not happen, but they were right there in the mix.
Good stuff. Great points made by you, Charles, in terms of the top 10. Let me ask you this. Any of these top 10s do you think early season rated too high that are likely not to finish the season in the top 10?
Allen looked like they got them a piece today, got them a receiver from LSU. That would have been my curious one there, but they don't add some talent. Like I said, I want to go back to Albany State. I'm very curious if they can continue the momentum from what they were able to do last season, losing a presence like Quinn Gray.
When you talk about those teams outside of the CIAA, SIAC, you got West Virginia State, Cheney. They've struggled of late, but West Virginia right there as a program outside of those teams that's getting voted, do you think at the end of the year they'll actually find a way in the top 10?
Yes, I do. Good program. Absolutely.
I'd have to agree with you on that as well, Charles. With that being said, let's close out this third segment, come back on the other side in the fourth segment. Let's get it. We kind of teased it a little bit. As we talked about Lindy's, they do not have any teams in the top 10 as they rank it, if you would. But they do have the preseason defensive player of the year out of Albany State, Georgia. Defensive lineman Dedrick Drayton is All-American preseason player of the year. So did want to make sure we shouted him out as he's recognized by Lindy's. With that being said, we'll turn the page in this segment. Be right back on the other side, and let's get into the Division I FCS HBCU programs and see that top 10. I'm interested with any of those independents, as we like to say, but those teams that are outside of the SWAC MEAC. Can anybody jump in the top 10? All of them had down years last year. Tennessee State, North Carolina A&T, Hampton. Can any of those programs drop in the top 10? We'll be right back on the other side. Not only will we see the top 10, we'll see if any of those teams are in the mix, or will it just be all about the MEAC and SWAC? Stay tuned in. We'll be right back after this break.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
If you've ever told yourself, I want to get into real estate but don't know where to start, here's something just for you. From Friday, July 31st to Sunday, August 2nd, the Learn Real Estate Fast Masterclass is coming to McKenzie Office Park in College Park. You'll learn wholesaling, commercial investing, and how to purchase property with zero money or credit. I can tell you, education and access are everything. This masterclass is designed to give you both. Whether you're brand new or ready to level up, this is where you start making real moves. Enjoy free lunch, free study materials, and receive a certification of completion. So don't wait. Seats are filling fast. Do not sit on the sidelines while others build wealth. Take that first step toward ownership and legacy. Get your tickets now at learnrealestatefast.com or tickpick.com. For more information, call 678-859-3303. Master the market, build your legacy, secure your future today.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a state, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJDN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we told you about the Black College Football Poll, this is a partnership that was sanctioned by the 4 HBCU conference commissioners, but it includes all HBCU programs in the NCAA. So those are proverbially what we call independents, such as A&T and Hampton out of the CAA, and Tennessee State out of the Big South OVC in terms of their partnership in football. They're eligible to be in the top 10, but let's see who got votes outside of the top 10 in this preseason rankings going into the media day. We'll see how this corresponds with where teams are ranked. We kind of teased you a little bit with Lindy. We'll get you with that ranking as well. As you see it here, before I break this down, Charles, I did get my Dave Campbell. And if you've been connected with Texas and Texas football, you heard about, you do know about Dave Campbell. And as many people around here call it the Bible of Texas football. You know, they do their own little ranking, if you would. They have a breakdown for Prairie View, Texas Southern. But they do give some love for the entire conference in terms of where they see teams ranked. So it's fascinating when you kind of think about what that looks like. They think Texas Southern, Prairie View is going to be all right in terms of their rankings. I'll go from the bottom to the top. And as I told you, there's some teams that are going to have a spread. Well, you're going to see that here. Not a lot of love for Dave Campbell in terms of Southern coming in at number 12, Charles. And number 11, and they just rank them all. They don't do division. They have Mississippi Valley at 11, Alabama A&M, at 10, Alcorn at 9, Arkansas Pine Bluff at 8, Bethune-Cookman at 7, Grambling at 6, FAMU at 5, Texas Southern at 4. So we saw Lindy's had them low, Texas Southern higher. You have Jackson 3, Alabama State 2, and they have Prairie View number 1 in terms of pick to repeat as SWAC champions. So that means if you had the West, that's Prairie View 1, Texas Southern 2, Grambling 3, Pine Bluff 4, Alcorn State 5, Southern 6. In terms of the East, that would be 1, Alabama State, 2, Jackson State, 3, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman 4, Alabama A&M 5, and Mississippi Valley 6. Now, let's get into the big one, the inaugural Black College Football Poll, just with the HBCUs. We told you what some other folks thought in terms of Lindy's and Dave Campbell. We're going to get a chance to see what Charles thinks, but this is what all the voters and coaches think at the FCS level that voted in this. Again, outside receiving votes is Alcorn State, the Braves, 5-7, 4-4 in 2025. Howard, also 5-7, 2-3 in terms of what they did in the conference race. That's 15 and 13 votes respectively. Also with 13 votes is Alabama A&M, 4-8, 1-7. Thought to be able to get back in the football business, receiving votes, not enough to get in the top 10. At number 10, FAMU, new coach, new chance. See them at 5-7 as they did 4-4 last year, 32 points. Entering the top 10 at number 9, Texas Southern. SWAC 6-5, 5-3, 42 points. Number 8, also out of the SWAC, Bethune-Cookman, 6-6, 5-3, 46 points. And then number 7, Grambling State, the SWAC. Bottom 4, SWAC program, 7-5, 4-4, 6-3. Finish up the bottom 5, Delaware State for the first MEAC entry. 8-4 overall, 4-1 with 98 points, if you would. Looking at the top 5, you have North Carolina Central at 5, 8-4 last season, 3-2, 107 points. We also get these teams in the top 4 that are receiving first place. These are folks that thought some of the teams in their rankings were ranked number 1. Starting at number 4, Alabama State, those Hornets, pesky Hornets, out of the SWAC, 10-2 last season, as we said earlier, 7-1, 141 points. You see the top of the heat. They really separate. Everybody's comfortable with these 4. 6 first place votes. Jackson State at 3, 9-3 overall, 7-1 out of the SWAC, obviously 149 points. Now, while they have more overall points than number 4, they actually have less first place votes with 4. We see that similar at number 2, Prairie View, 10-4, 7-1. A lot of folks think they will be back in the mix at the top, but not many of them think they're going to finish first overall. I don't see them as first coming in, but they did get 2 first place votes. So you see right now, 3 SWAC teams, 1 MEAC team in the top 5, but number 1, South Carolina State, the reigning champs. And you see that both from the Division 2 and the FCS Division 1, both of last year's champs, conference-wise, are in the mix, while South Carolina State also won the Cricket Celebration Bowl, now presented by Toyota. They were 10-3, 5-0 out of the conference. Coach over there out of the South Carolina State, he hadn't lost a conference game.
He hadn't lost a conference game yet.
Don't lose a conference game.
Yeah.
With that being said, he has 185 points, 36 points. So the prevailing, overwhelming, everybody's top choice going into this season in South Carolina State. A lot of folks got a lot of love for Chennis Berry. Not just the way he finished last year, but what they think they're going to do for this year. Charles, a lot of the unpack there. Where do you want to start?
Let me go back to something with Dave Campbell. Did you mention was Valley on top of Southern?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't ready for that.
I mean, it was a close loss last year in the season, and Valley did win a couple of the last 2, including a win over FAMU.
Okay.
So maybe they think they're building. It also looks like a lot of these folks out here, at least in the national publications, they have, they have mixed relationships of what they think about some of these professional coaches. At least after year 1, they seem to think they're okay. Not a lot of love for Vic, but a lot of love for Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of love, it seems, for over there in Mississippi Valley. Not a lot of love for Falk at Southern. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you take a look at the poll. The first 4, I think, speak for themselves. You got the Celebration Bowl participants, South Carolina State and Prairie View, and then Jackson State and Alabama State that were just right there toward the end of the season, right there in the mix. North Carolina Central is the one that I'm really curious about in terms of replacing a 2-year starter like Walker Harris. What do you do at quarterback with regards to North Carolina Central? And they still have that hurdle, that South Carolina State hurdle to overcome. Can Delaware State repeat? Marquise Adams does come back for Delaware State, and the physicality that they showed running the ball last year was mind blowing. I know they did have some departures or defections, if you will, through the transfer portal, but can they replenish that talent there at Delaware State? Grambling, It was the fourth quarter collapses last year. I think that was a team that probably could have won a couple more games last season, but they just kind of faltered down the stretch. Bethune-Cookman is kind of an interesting one to kind of sit back and watch. Can they continue their upward momentum? But if there's a team that could supplant any of the bottom three, Bethune-Cookman, Texas Southern, Florida A&M, I have to agree with Charles Evans. I think Alcorn is kind of a scary team that people need to pay attention to. They went 4-1 down the stretch. The light bulb seemed to come on for Jalen Tolbert midway through the season, and you could start seeing a better Alcorn product probably from October on through November. And they gave Jackson State everything that they could handle in Jackson toward the end. So Alcorn's a team.
It was a rivalry game.
It is a rivalry game, no doubt. But Jalen Tolbert, he really started playing much better football from mid-October through November.
That's true. I'll give you that. Same question I asked you earlier, but now at the FCS level. Which of these top 10 teams at the end of the year is going to be disappointed because they won't even have a top 10 finish? Or a couple of teams, maybe.
Yeah. We build up expectations for Texas Southern. That could be a team that could falter, especially when you kind of take a look at what they're up against this upcoming season in terms of playing home games at multiple venues. So just having that energy week in, week out with regards to Texas Southern. Florida A&M, I think it's going to be, there's always talent, obviously, at Florida A&M, but if there's a year where it could be a step back, this could be the year where they, try to get their ducks in a row this upcoming season. So those are the two teams that I kind of would see if they could potentially fall out of the poll.
FAMU and who else?
Texas Southern. Like my ascension to the poll.
Southern going either way. Either they really gonna do well.
Yeah, they either go. You just never know with Texas Southern. They could go either way. Cameron McCoy, he transfers over to Texas Southern, but he's going to have to step it up in terms of being a passer. We know Cameron McCoy as being a tremendous athlete, a guy who can really, really great with the RPO, can really run it, but he's going to have to step up. He has targets and Rory and Richardson, has a good running game with Atheon Renfro in the backfield, but we've seen before with Texas Southern, injuries kind of derail them. So do they have the depth that can kind of get them through periods of times where they lose players to injury? And I think that's been kind of the bugaboo for Texas Southern over the past 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So you have these players with professional backgrounds jumped in the mix. Interesting to see how they continue to do. But you also have these Division II programs that moved up. And we've seen both sides of this. We've seen the success that is out of the world over in South Carolina with Coach Berry. You also seen it last year with Coach Jackson in terms of what he was able to do with the Prairie View team. Not so much for Alabama A&M. We've seen over the years with Morgan State, not so much in terms of getting that same type of trend going Division II. But you spoke about FAMU. Something tells me that Quinn Gray, I don't necessarily see them being able to get it done and surprise everybody enough to run for a championship, particularly with the fact that they were ruled out based on NCAA. But with so many transfers that played on a team that was really well in jail, I think they're going to be a lot better than that, Charles. I see them finishing in the top 10 and maybe even higher. I just think Quinn Gray, in terms of cutting his teeth and what he did with Albany State, literally rebuilding that program. We know that program has had a lot of success, but not of lately. That's going to be interesting.
Here's a question. What I want to ask, Doc, is with the success of first-year coaches, we saw Tremaine Jackson first year at Prairie View get them to the Celebration Bowl. Chennis Berry, instant success at South Carolina State. Deshaun Jackson, success, at Delaware State. But how much pressure does that put on head coaches as a whole once they start getting into that, second, third, and fourth season, and it hasn't translated yet in terms of the fan base sitting back looking and saying, wait a second, Prime did it year one, Deshaun Jackson, so on and so on and so on. How much pressure does that put on coaches?
I think it's more pressure for Falk over there at Southern because of this Southern, they've been down so long. They've tried so many different avenues to get it done. They don't think much about the division they are in, just personally. Even though we know that it's a solid division, and actually, as of late, closing out things last year's has been really trending in the upward direction, which is not a good thing for them. But you already have folks that don't know what they're going to get from Southern, but you have a lot of Southern folks that are smiling out there. They believe what they've seen in practice, who they brought in, coaches. They think they're going to be fine. So their expectations are pretty high. So I think Falk is the biggest one from the standpoint that he hasn't done it before.
Yeah.
You know, the other Division II programs outside of Jackson, and he had a smaller sample size in terms of conference play. He only played 5 games. To his credit, he did what he needed to do in those 5 games and went 4-1 and got some big non-conference wins. But to me, it's a little different when you're talking about 8 games that you got to play. You have more margin to be great in terms of Jackson. That's a lot. So it's interesting. And we got to look a little deeper in terms of the scheduling, which is some stuff we'll talk about Tuesday, I'm sure, while we're in Birmingham. And then even post to start breaking down schedules, which is something I like to do that we don't think about. And you may not be able to tell the teams, but you certainly know certain teams tend to play better at home, while some teams play really solid on the road. I think that's a question mark that we need to really take a closer look at Southern to see how much charges with them. And I think the other part, when you talk about Quinn Gray over there, the other part of this we don't talk about is, like, do you get some key games? I think you can be marginal, be above 500 or playing pretty good. But if you do that, you got to have some big wins. So when you're talking about FAMU, obviously you got to get the Bethune-Cookman game. If you can get a Jackson game or Alabama State, that's going to give you a little room, right? Because folks are going to be excited about those wins. And if you lose to a Prairie View or, you lose to I'll take that back. Also, another one that FAMU wants is Southern. So you got to get a mix of those. You got to get maybe 2 of those, right?
Yeah.
And then you can kind of wave if you don't just get off the thing. And you can even take a tough loss to a Alabama A&M. If you're Southern, the same way. That first game, they got to at least look good. Alabama's you got to at least look good in there, give some hope. But you got to find a way to beat Jackson or Grambling State, right?
Yeah.
You can't fall to both Texas Southern and Prairie View. You got to win one of those games. You got to at least look good in those games. Or it's going to be a challenge for folks to get excited about saying, hey, this first year is building. So I don't think that you have to win it all, but you got to find a way to get some key wins in there.
Win the right games.
The right games, right, is what I've always said about new coaches. It's not so much doing the Richardson, if you would, based in terms of Coach Richardson, what he was able to do his first year, or even what we've seen the trend for those teams, like you said, Jackson, both at Prairie View and Delaware State, and obviously the phenom, which is something that you shouldn't be looking at, but a lot of folks are going to think twice, is Coach Berry. And what's fascinating, Texas Southern had those opening searches, and they did interview him to their credit, but South Carolina State, one thing they did, remember, they started their coaching search early. Yeah. You know the thing, one hand in the bush is better than nothing. So once he got the offer at South Carolina State, you don't have to move. Yeah, you look at everybody else, but as they start saying, hey, we want to take to this board, you ain't going to be like, well, let me wait and see what these programs, you're going to take it. So that's also part of the game. How good is your program from a board level all the way down to the president AD about being aggressive when you're going to make the move? They didn't do it with Coach Berry. Be interesting to see over the next couple of years how people feel about that in terms of those decisions at those two programs. Even though if you're Texas Southern, you're in a pretty good position. You got your first winning season in 10 years since 2010, 16 years, 20 years overall since 2010. Obviously, that championship was taken back in that season, obviously. But you got that in the mix. So you got some excitement over there. We said this last year. That game against Prairie View went down to the last play. They win that game. Technically, everything else stays the same.
Yeah,
They actually go and play Jackson State for the championship in
that
Jackson,
close. Yeah.
right? One loss, one win is the difference because they would have a tie record, but they would have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Prairie because they would have won that game. If ands and buts and nuts, we know what they say, but I do want to give some people perspective in Texas Southern in terms, as you said, a team to watch. Can they replace KJ? That's going to be interesting in terms of what that looks like. But yeah, a lot of questions on the table, so many new variables in this new football market. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. I can't wait till Tuesday, Charles, to take a deeper dive. We get a chance to talk to some coaches, really to get some feel, talk to some players. Everybody's going to be excited. But if you've been in this in a while, you have a different way to kind of feel some quiet excitement, and you get some tidbits of why some coaches, some players feel that way, and you can kind of see maybe a team will be a little more different than what we think coming into it. So I can't wait to revisit this on Thursday in terms of what that looks like. Again, we do plan to do a live show in Birmingham, so keep an eye on that on Tuesday. Roy is looking to set up everything and have us ready to go. If not, we'll be live Wednesday to give you the SWAC Football Media Day for 2026. Charles, any final thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we're right up on it. I mean, the season is upon us, and it's great to start talking this football again. But I think, to me, just kind of looking at it, I think this is kind of a season of parity. Just off top, I love the fact that you got a lot of returning quarterbacks coming back. You kind of take a look through the league, at least with the SWAC, but you got a lot of talent up and down this league.
Alabama A&M, Tennessee State play each other. Of those two teams, if I forced you, which one of those teams are going to find a way to be in the top 10 at the end of the season?
I would have to go with the returning quarterback with Alabama A&M, and if they can figure out a way to score some points, I think that was a big thing with them last year. Once they had injuries, they started to kind of tail off. But if they can kind of stay healthy, we've seen what Sam Shade has done in Miles and what he can put together with regards to a program.
I think it's a good call. And you did allude that you think the Braves are going to surprise. So that's another one at the end of the year that might find their way in the top 10. I think you're
paying a lot of attention to the Braves this season. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I will say that. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We will start Sunday back in the fall, giving an early morning breakdown on Sunday morning of what took place on Saturday. As we say in the intro, either you're going to be hiding like a mouse or you're going to be talking the talk. We'll see. Because these guys certainly will do their part in terms of what that looks like. Woo. Also, as we go through the season, we will have a preseason in terms of what you look at in terms of coming out of the Black College football. We'll do one for the NCAA Division I FCS. We'll do one for the NCAA Division II. That'll come out after all of the media days. And then you'll get your weekly updates, and we'll give you those updates. There's a larger write-up on the Black College football that talks about the top 10 teams for both of those two polls. So you can go to thgagency.com and look at the Black College football and get that write-up to get some more in-depth. You can also go to a lot of your partners in terms of the media releases for that. Look forward to a postseason top 10 champions coming out of the Black College football poll, as well as a postseason All-American team. That will be something fascinating to keep your eyes on. That is something I look forward to providing everybody with the voters week to week during this 2026 football season beyond what we do on Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Again, with that, we thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday and Thursday. That's it for this week. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Raymond?
Lecture.
Dismiss.